Good day, my name is Kadeen Smith. I am the project coordinator for the Caribbean Future Forum based in the office of the UN Resident Coordinator Trinidad and Tobago. Today we will be briefly discussing communication for behavioral impact, which we'll be referring to as COMBI. I have the distinct pleasure of discussing this with Dr. Everold Hosein. He is a WHO consultant and an adjunct professor at the New York University. We also have joining us Mr. Christopher Saith, who is the Chief Public Health Inspector at the Ministry of Health, Trinidad and Tobago. This discussion follows a recently concluded food safety COMBI workshop that took place from May 2nd to May 9th. Of course, I'd like to thank all of the organizations that organized and sponsored this workshop. These would include the Ministry of Health, Trinidad and Tobago, UNDP, FAO, PAHO/WHO, and the Indiana University. So just going straight into the first question, Dr. Hosein. If you could just share with us a brief explanation of what is COMBI and how it's different to traditional social marketing strategies.
Okay, it takes us 3 weeks to answer that question in New York, but I'm going to try to do it in about 3 or 4 minutes. COMBI stands for, as you mentioned, the COM, C-O-M is for communication, B for behavioral, I for impact. So that's how we got the acronym COMBI. But the origins of this is work that I was doing with a public relations company and an advertising agency at New York University in New York, where we were focusing on the use of something called integrated marketing communication for behavioral impact in health and social development. I left that, well, I didn't leave the New York University teaching, but I left the advertising agency and PR firm I was working with and joined WHO. And in WHO in the year 2000, that's when we started applying this methodology of integrated marketing communication for behavioral impact. But there was a bit of resistance within the UN system to bringing in private sector techniques like marketing communication. So we decided to drop the language of marketing. So we dropped integrated, we dropped marketing, and what you end up with is COMBI, communication for behavioral impact. The difference between COMBI and other forms of strategic communication planning, I would say, is in the emphasis on behavioral results. Some people argue that social marketing, which is very similar to COMBI in some respects, focuses on behavioral outcomes, and I think that's what social marketing ought to do. But in practice, when you look at what goes under the name of social marketing, what I find it does very well is increase awareness and knowledge of a brand name, but it doesn't necessarily lead to people adopting the brand or buying the brand. So I can go to a country where everybody knows number one, that's the brand name for the top condom in Thailand, for example, Cambodia, and we say, well, that's fantastic, and that is the result. This is pretty good work, a result of social marketing. Now, when it comes to the use of the condom, that's where I think social marketing falls apart. They're excellent at promotion, excellent at putting a brand on the public agenda. What COMBI does is focus almost exclusively, tunnel vision style, on getting that behavioral outcome, which we say is what ultimately we're all concerned about. So when I'm talking to colleagues in health, but this also applies to the broader area of social development, the primary thing we ask for the beginning of our planning exercise is, what is the behavioral result you want? Now, if people say to me they want to increase awareness, want to improve people's knowledge, I said that you can do pretty much in your sleep. That's an easy task. Getting people to act on what they know and seeing the behavioral impact is a different challenge, and that's the challenge that COMBI, I think, uniquely focuses on. Most of the other communication planning methods focus on increasing awareness, increasing knowledge. And I must say that I'm fairly tired of hearing, even in the situation of HIV/AIDS, that our goal is to increase awareness of HIV/AIDS. And if I'm working in South Africa, you have 99.5% of the people aware of HIV, then I say we're way beyond HIV. Awareness, what we need to focus on is behavioral results, getting people to act on what they know, and that's the primary difference with COMBI. And we say we have a special methodology. It's a 10-step process using techniques from the private sector that's appropriate for our kind of work, but applying it in tunnel vision focus to getting specific behavioral results.
Okay, I think that's good. And then, so this workshop that was held, what would have been the aim of it and what was achieved from this workshop?
The aim of it was to build the capacity of colleagues in the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, and there's another agency called NAMDEFCO, which is involved in marketing of agricultural products, to build their capacity to use the COMBI methodology to design communication plans to get specific results in health. And in those programs, which is it's a blend of health and agriculture. So food safety, for example, is a blend of work in health, work in agriculture. And then there are some uniquely health-oriented behavioral results. So it was to enable colleagues, and this is the first time we were doing that in Trinidad, to have a core of about 30, was it 35, 30 people? Roughly about 30, let's say 30 people who would understand how to use this methodology to plan any public communication program to get concrete, specific behavioral outcome. So that was the goal. And it's really to take this approach, which we conduct a 3-week training program. This is a WHO and New York University training program at New York University every July. It's a 3-week course, but it was to take that 3-week course and bring the core components of that to these 30 colleagues here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you ask me what the outcome is, well, one of the outcomes is sitting next to me, and we'll hear from him shortly. But I think it was an excellent group of 30 people put together from different disciplines, and I think they displayed in very short time. 6 days is an extremely short time to cover the COMBI methodology, but I think they displayed wonderful skills in using the tools we shared with them. And I think now, if they would refocus their communication planning work, basically stop thinking that their goal is awareness and increasing knowledge, and focus now on the goal of translating that into people's behavior. So I think we've got a wonderful core of people who can apply that technique, or at least can begin applying that technique and also learn from the mistakes and the experiences. But I think that's a great start.
It is a good start. And I mean, speaking of the participants, we have Mr. Satas, who was a participant, and what they did, they actually began drafting COMBI plans. So now I'd like to hand over to Mr. Satas, and maybe you can share with us what you would have learned, what your group would have worked on, and how you can use this knowledge and apply it in your field as the public health inspector, chief public health inspector.
Okay, but first of all, Nadine, I would like to thank you for having me here today as part of this discussion. We learned a lot. Although it was a 3-week program condensed into 6 days, I think Professor did an excellent job. Right? All the participants were very pleased the way the information was conveyed, and I think it was very enjoyable. Although it was very intense, because I think I hardly slept for those number of days, because although do your workshop during by day, you have to reflect by night.
Yes.
Right? And all of us are busy 24/7. Okay, what we learned, as I indicated in the workshop when Dr. Hosein was doing his analysis, as a public health inspector coming into the profession, I wanted to clean up the system. Right? A part of our mandate or legal remit is to register all food handlers and food premises annually. Right? And to ensure that the food that is offered for sale to the members of the public is safe. Right? So my job basically is to ensure that you eat eat safe food. Okay? And what I was troubled over the years is that, we're giving this information, we are telling the people what they need to do, right, in order to get a safe product. It's for their benefit, right? We safeguard in the interest of the public, right? So when you come with respect to knowledge and awareness, as Dr. Hosein indicated, they had all the information. Sometimes if you question the persons out there, food handlers, they may know more about their profession than I, right?
Yeah.
And right, but yet we are not seeing that translated into behavior change. And I was always worried and bothered as an inspector, you know, what can I do? What can I do to have a behavior change, a positive behavior change? So we have a positive result by, safe food out there. So this COMBI program, COMBI plan,
Yeah.
how it's going to help? Well, first of all, I was under the misconception that, you need to lump a set of behavior together, right? Let's say, for example, hand washing, right? Before and after you're going to use the toilets, if you eat, if you play, what have you, right?
Yeah.
But what Dr. Hosein has showed us, it has to be very specific, right? If you do the analysis, everybody is fully aware of what is taking place. So if you want to introduce a particular behavior, you got to be very specific about it. Now, I was one of the participants of one of 4 groups who came up with 4 plans then. It's not completed, it's a work in progress, right? Basically, we want to have some behavior change with respect to the handling doubles, the selling of doubles. The background to this is that what we have observed is a certain percentage of food that is being offered for sale is being classified as unfit for human consumption. Right? After what we do, we take endpoint sampling, submit to the public health lab, and that is what the result is showing. So we have a little concern because we are educating you as part of the process. We do a physical inspection of the premises as part of the process. You have a medical certificate to indicate that you are physically fit and capable and free of chemical diseases to handle food. But yet we get a certain percentage that is unsafe, enough so much that is of concern, right? Now, as you can appreciate, my project looked at doubles vending. We could have looked at many other things, but we looked at doubles vending. Doubles is a national dish, right? It's a street vended food, and inherent in street vended foods, due to the lack of infrastructure, you have certain inherent dangers and risks, right? Not only that, as the country looks to, as the stated objective of the government is to look at tourism and expand the tourism sector, we expect a lot more people to come in. Sometimes, although you and I maybe build up a certain amount of resistance to the food, the contaminated food, a visitor visiting the shores, we may have a different outcome. Right? So, I mean, in technology, something happening today, it's worldwide in a matter of moments. Right? So this is some of the background to what we wanted to do. So we wanted to ensure at the end of the day, we develop a plan, a strategy, so that we will have safe food. May not be able to guarantee 100% as safe food, but at least we identify all the issues and problems or critical points in the process flow, eliminate whatever corrective action, what have you. So at the end of the year, we have a safer product on the market. Right? So that is basically how it's going to impact on me. We looked at hand washing, proper hand washing. Okay, people, concept of hand washing is different. Right? So it's proper hand washing, soap, water, vigorously washing your hands, rubbing, scrubbing, at least for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you dry with paper towel. And as you can appreciate, many times you go, people use a cloth towel and using it over and over and over. What happens? After a period of time, the cloth becomes contaminated. So you wash your hands, you hold a contaminated cloth, dirty cloth, defeat the entire purpose. Right? So the whole purpose of this project, my project, which I'm part of, is to have a behavioral change with respect to hand washing at the critical control points in the process of producing the doubles.
And would it be possible for you to share maybe one other point from the project, like exactly
what we learned with respect to that? Okay, it was a very intense 6 days, as I indicated.
Yeah.
We learned many things. Now, what I liked about the entire plan is that Doctor didn't choose to reinvent everything, right? We used a lot of familiar theories, for example, SWOT analysis, phosphine analysis, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what have you, and all that worked into the system. You have marketing concept, the 4 Ps, we converted to the 4 Cs, and 2 features, 2 methodology that he used that impressed me greatly, and I never thought, and it will have a direct impact on what I do, is what we call Dido and Milo, right? Daily life of the vendor and a moment in time in the vendor. Many a times we go to give information and we know all. Sometimes we think we know all. We never sit down and think and analyze, is it convenient for the person to do what I want them to do? when I want them to do. Now, I know why they have to do it, right? But you know, you want to convince them. You want to convince them. If you don't convince somebody and they believe what you want them to do, you won't get that result,
Yeah.
right? Once we are there in our uniforms, they are doing